Hi, I'm Johnny and you're watching the Hexy Beast. And before we start with this video, I just want to apologise for the lack of content over the last couple of weeks. I've been dealing with some health problems, and to remedy that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a couple of episodes of my Shelf by Shelf series in this week. So anyway, without the way, we're on episode 2 of my Shelf by Shelf series, in which we're going to be taking a look at this shelf right here. Anyway, let's just get to the table and crack on with it, shall we? Okay, so this is part 2 of my Shelf by Shelf series, where I'm going to be looking at my entire collection and just basically giving you a quick blurb on each game that I own. And if I don't melt in the heat today, we're going to be starting with an appropriate game, Solar Storm. I really enjoy this game. It's a really cool sort of, I would say worker placement, but it's kind of not. You take on the role of some astronauts that are on a ship that is basically destined to head for the sun, and you're trying to basically repair the ship before it hurtles itself into a certain death. So basically that's Solar Storm, the first of this Shelf by Shelf series. I'm going to put it aside in the games that I have played because I play it quite a lot, and it does fit really nice on a TCG mat if you want to fit it in a small space. Anyway, next on the shelf is an expansion for a game that actually isn't on that shelf right now, and that is the Lost Ruins of Arnak expansion, the Expedition Leaders. I've yet to actually play it. I've punched it out and I've read the rulebook, but I haven't actually integrated it into my copy of the Lost Ruins of Arnak yet. So I'm looking forward to doing that soon, and that basically starts our puddle of self-pity over here with the first object on this list that I haven't played. And next we're going to be looking at another expansion, which I have played. This is the Branch and Claw expansion for Spirit Island. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the rest of Spirit Island here, because we're going to be splitting it into 2 piles. So the first, we're going to go with the base game, which obviously, if you've heard me talk about Spirit Island before, you know it's one of my favourite games. It appeared quite highly on my top 10 lists. I also really enjoy the fact that every Spirit feels different. As we're going to say, I have played the base game, so the base game is going to go over here with Solar Storm. We've played Branch and Claw, but as you can see, my Jagged Earth expansion is actually still in shrink. And I have technically played Jagged Earth, but it's only really been through the digital version of Spirit Island. So what I'm going to do is pretty soon I need to get this open, and the premium token pack that comes with it, which is somewhere on the shelf somewhere. I don't know where, but this also goes into my puddle of self-pity over here, along with the Lost Ruins of Arnak expansion. There seems to be a theme of this this pile over here today. It's kind of a theme of expansions. And now we're going to have one of my favourite games of all time, even though for some reason I don't think it has actually appeared on my top 10 list. It might have, I can't remember. But this is Nemos War. It has a lot of luck in it. It's one of those like really cool dice games. Definitely a pure solo game. It does have co-op in the box, but it doesn't work. It's basically just allocating someone as a captain and a subordinate. But the fun I have with it is it's kind of very war gamey. It sort of has that sort of like military aspect to it, where there's a lot of ships coming out, which are actually like ships that would have been sailing on the seas at the time that this game is set. It's really fun to captain the Nautilus. It's a very tricky game. It kind of lets you, it has a really good emergent narrative for its card system, which you can choose to ignore or you can choose to play it. But anyway, that's the Nemos War, one of my favourite games, and one of the games I do play quite regularly, and it's just one of those games I love, even with the null turns that happen now and again. And so we're moving on to, ooh, we got some good stuff now. One of the other games I was on this shelf. It's another game I have played, and I've played it before it was in a box as well, so it's a good one. I used to use actually components of another game that's going to be on this list now to play it, but this is Under Falling Skies, which is basically like a sort of dice placement game. It sort of emulates that sort of Space Raiders feel, where you have Space Invaders, where it's basically like ships coming down from the top of a screen, and you're basically trying to defend the place by building new things. You're sort of like shooting down the aliens, and basically the idea is to survive without actually having all the aliens come through and destroy you before the end of the game. But that's a really fun game. I've played quite a bit of it. My description would probably leave you thinking otherwise. This also goes in my nice pile over here of stuff that I have actually played. Now, speaking of the game I used to rob the components from for this game, Okay, so the next game I'm going to be taking a look at is a game I was on about a minute ago where I robbed the components from it to play Under Falling Skies, and that is Black Angel. And yes, I got the box the right way up this time. This is actually why I cut it a minute ago. Basically, this is a game by Sebastian Dujardin, Javier Georges, and Alan O'Bain, with art by Ian O'Toole. It's basically a game where you take on the role of an AI which is in charge of some robots that basically got to get our genetic data onto a new planet called Spez in order to repopulate and basically stop the human race from becoming extinct. Yes, the stakes seem high. It's full of Euro goodness. It kind of splits its gameplay into two sequences, an A and a B. An A is just sort of you take your general actions, and the B just generally advances the board and brings us closer to the end of the game. It has a really fun solo mode. I actually think HAL is a very well executed solo deck, and for that reason I'm actually going to be putting this one in this pile, because it was like the 4th or 5th game in my collection, 3rd, it was somewhere around there. It was very early on in my collection. It's a game that's going to stick with me for a long time, and it's one that I really have enjoyed. It was like my entry into the whole Euro style game. Anyway, that brings us on to another one of my favourite games for the end of this list, which is Mage Knight, which, what can I say about Mage Knight apart from the fact that Luke Hector hates it? This is actually one of the favourite games. This is one of the favourite games of the solo community as well. It's Vlaada Chvátil. It's just a very interesting game where you take on the role of breach mages that have to sort of go through like an overland sort of RPG style adventure, where you're taking on enemies, you know, raiding keeps. The idea is in the conquest mode, which is one of my favourite ways to play, is you're supposed to find 2 cities before 3 days and 3 nights, and that's kind of the way the game is split up. It's split up into rounds through days and nights. It's just a very complex, very sort of long deck building game. It's one of those guilty pleasures where I just keep playing it to the point that I've probably got actually over 200 plays of Mage Knight at this point, and I'm still very bad at it. My wins I can probably count on 2 hands. But it's just such an amazing game, and it's one of the reasons I've been in this hobby so long. I think it was the point I got Mage Knight that I was really like, oh, okay, solo gaming is for me. And for that reason, I just have to say that I absolutely love this game, and that is going in this pile. And that is actually everything on that shelf today. As you can see, the pile over here is actually pretty small. Pile over there is pretty big, so it's nice that we've our puddle of self-pity, or whatever I've called it this episode, is nice and safe over here. Anyway, if you've been enjoying this content and you like what you see, please feel free to smash that subscribe button up there and check out another one of my videos up here. Anyway, I've been Johnny. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Stay hexy!